No hat, you don't have a hat.
The hat's in the other hat.
Molly, was everything out there televised live as well?
Yes.
Perfect. I'll just reiterate for those people who didn't hear me that we just recognized our retiring faculty and staff, and I believe 15 of them in total represented 373 years of service, dedicated service to the Wilton Public Schools in the town of Wilton, and we thank them tremendously for their service. And we also received, yes, thank you, Dr. Richards reminded me, we received the yearbooks from Middlebrook Cider Mill and the high school, and they were glorious. There's high tech in the high school yearbook this year, which is kind of cool. We reviewed the agenda and approved it previously, correct?
Yes.
And we now, as we do at the beginning and end of every meeting, have opportunity for comments from the public. Is there anybody that'd like to speak? Seeing none, I'd like to remind everybody that they can contact us at the Board of Ed email alias. We do look at those. Has everybody had a chance to look at the consent agenda?
Yes.
Comments, questions?
Is it possible to amend the consent agenda?
It is by
Can we just-
2/3 vote.
2/3. I'd like to discuss separately the healthy food certification statement.
Second on that?
I second.
Is there a motion? A motion, we all in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous, we pull it out, and we'll put it into the regular agenda. Now is there a move to approve the consent agenda as it now stands with the minutes and the non-union central office salaries, contracts, personnel, what have you?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we move on to reports and recognition. I do not have a board chair's report this evening, other than to reiterate what I said a moment ago, and I hand it off to Dr. Richards.
Good evening. I have two items. The first is at this time, each year at this time, we announce some of the World Language Awards that have been earned by our students as part of the Connecticut COLT program. The Connecticut Council of Language Teachers have a competition, and students selected for this award receive a certificate and have their names published in the COLT Journal News Exchange. In addition, the 20 students in level 4 and higher receive a medal from the organization. We like to also, at the time, we recognize the achievements of the students, to recognize the achievements of our faculty. And so we've grouped these by teacher, students of Madame Martine Berlier, Kara Bartek, French, Kira Lynn, George, help me, Mr. O'Donnell. Magabelovishvili. I'm glad I'm not saying that at commencement. Abby Schiff and Eveline, is it Z, I believe. Students of Joanne Cordes, Lindsay Clark, Dan Glynn, Tyler Innes, Austin Stang, and Kaylin Webb. Students of Max Gabrielson, let me back up, Joanne Cordes teaches German. Students of Max Gabrielson, Aaron Bronner, Latin 1, Will Heffernan, Latin 2, Catherine Keneally, Latin 2, Jessica Kopsa, Latin 2, Kathleen Smith, Latin 3, and Greek 3, Nathan Briglin, Greek 1, Molly Hoke, Greek 1, Kevin Shu, Greek 1, and Evelyn Z, Greek 3. Students of Senora Veronica Hernandez, Spanish, Daniel Glynn, Spanish 4H, Daniel Kim, Spanish 4H, Jessica Kopsa, Theodore Molina, Spanish 4H, Catherine Sana, Spanish 4H. Students of Senora Gladys Ramos, Vidika Karan Dikar, Spanish 3, Haley McDonald, Spanish 3, Neil Sarup, Spanish 5, Caroline Taverna, Spanish 5, Jackson Walker, Spanish 3. Students of Senior Scott Webster, Nicole Amato, Spanish 5, Nicholas DeCorado, Spanish 5, Darden Levesey, Spanish 5, Grace Nickel, Spanish 5, and Madeline Srivastava, Spanish 5. And then finally, students of Dr. Anna Zobler, Kevin Collins, Spanish 4, Grace DeLuca, Spanish 4, Nikhil Fazio, Spanish 4H, Ella Manick, Spanish 4, and Kelsey Ritchie, Spanish 4H. So congratulations to those students and to their teachers for these great honors. Second item is each year at this time, we also, our senior class, members of our senior class, those who volunteer, participate in what we've called Senior Service Morning. It's an opportunity for our seniors to give back as they contemplate their exit and end of their time here in Wilton, at Wilton High School. This year we had 32 seniors. It's a little bit smaller number than in previous years, and Mr. O'Donnell and I were talking about that, and partly that's a function of the fact that our internship program has grown to the point where 90% of our students were involved in internships and weren't able to participate. So the high school is going to look at how they structure this in the future and maybe look at alternative opportunities for service that maybe occur at a slightly different time or in a different format. But having said that, the 32 students were in a variety of venues on June 3rd. Middlebrook School, 5 of our seniors, Cider Mill School, 2, helping out teachers deal with some of the end of the year details and organization. They helped the Wilton High School Math 3 students, helped the math department with organizing files and organizing some classrooms in the department. The art department, very heavy supply-oriented department, a lot of end-of-year cleaning and so on. They worked in the computer room, the photo supply room, the yearbook distribution, cleaned and inventory the ceramic closet, and organized the fashion room. So we had 10 students working in the art department, 2 in the world language department who worked on decorating a classroom, 4 in the language lab at the high school, decorating language labs with flags. And they packed some boxes with old textbooks that will be either destroyed or given. Oftentimes we're able to give them to organizations that can use the books, and sometimes they go overseas. Wilton High School reading classroom, 4 students. The English department had another 2, so that was 32 students. Final item is this afternoon, the senior internship program. They did something a little bit different this year. They've had several different venues and ways of doing this, but they had a symposium. I believe I sent invitations around. It was right in the middle of the day, so busy time. But it was from 1 to 2:30 in the field house, and it was set up much like the college fair, with booths and students who had visuals and information about their internships, and we shared them with people who were circulating around the field house. I got a chance to talk to several groups of students, and some of them worked in places like Ware Farm. Others worked in some governmental agencies. I talked to a young man who was honored with the Superintendent's Award at our last meeting, but he was in Washington. And he talked to me a little bit about, he worked in the Congressional Office of Internships, and he was talking about the opportunities he had to get inside the Capitol building and see how Congress works. So that was pretty exciting talking to him. Some students worked in businesses like the South Wilton Veterinary Clinic. And again, all the ones I talked to, the students I talked to, were very enthusiastic about what they did. We will give a more detailed report for you. We'll put some in writing for you. And Dr. Sanzo took some pictures for me, so we'll show you what it looked like that day. And hopefully that's a tradition that we'll build, and we appreciate all the good work that was done this year.
Thank you very much. Committee reports? Anybody have anything to report?
Well, I just wanted to thank the PTAs in town who supported the 2 meet and greets with our incoming superintendent, Dr. Smith. They provided refreshments and helped us get the word out and advertise that, so thank you to the PTAs.
Wonderful, thank you very much. We now have a report on full-day kindergarten, presented by Dr. Smith and Ms. Cheryl Jensen-Gardner.
Okay, well, I'm really just going to introduce everybody. So, as you know, a few months ago, Mrs. Jensen-Garner provided you with some information on how full-day kindergarten was going. And at that time, the information we had was primarily qualitative information, and we said to you that as more information became available, we'll provide you with an update. So now, as the year is coming to a close, we have more information that's more of a quantitative nature, and we thought this would be a good time to share it with you. And we have Mrs. Jensen-Garner, Dr. Brown, and Mr. Cross here to share that.
Is this on? Doesn't sound like it.
Press the red button.
Hold it for a second. No, I just need my glasses. Can't see anything without them. Is it on?
It probably is on.
Yeah, there's no sound field in here, so
There's no-
we don't know if
right,
it's
but it's probably
broadcasting or
on.
not.
It's on for TV.
Right, as long as the light's on, it should be
Because that
fine.
happened with Chuck the last time.
When I was downstairs looking for Paul, it was very clearly audible
Yeah.
when you were out in the
Okay.
library.
Is that one more time, jokes?
I know you need the microphone for the TV. So, as Dr. Smith indicated, we were here, I think it was a couple months ago, and one of the things when full-day kindergarten was approved last year, we were asked if we could have some kind of metrics or some kind of more quantitative data that says that we believe, more than we just believe, that kindergarten doing a full-day program is successful. So we have some things to share with you. It isn't as lengthy as it might look in there. So the next one is as the context for this is why did we have full-day kindergarten in the first place? And so I think these are important to the conversation because these are the reasons that we went into this. And so the things that we will be reporting as we do this presentation include these kinds of things. The learning process takes time. We had talked a lot about the rush of the day. So it's a less hurried setting. There are fewer transitions, not having to go home in the middle of the day. Children used to ask, when's my long day, when's my short day? They don't ask that. They ask when lunch maybe is, but it supports the programs that we're trying to do. It gives an opportunity for every day. We have consistency. Language arts, we have math, we have writing. We do those things every day. It gives us an opportunity to do a more deep and more thorough explanation of the concepts. Gives an opportunity, one of the things that was in our extended day program, we didn't have the opportunity to give the children the amount of play that we thought that they needed throughout a day with the structured play that we have, that we are able to do now. This full day gives us more opportunities for differentiation of instruction, and I'll refer to that in one of the slides that we go through. And there are more opportunities to build these strong relationships throughout the day. One of the things that the teachers noted is that when the children went home in the afternoon, they had half a class, so they didn't get to bond with that whole class all day long. So now they do. Okay, so and again, kindergarten's a critical year for all children, a year of transition for preschool programs or home to their first formal schooling. We want this to be a very successful foundational year for them. It's their first opportunity to get to know each other and to build important foundations to facilitate those learning skills that they'll have for a lifetime. And so Sheila's going to talk a little bit. One of the things that we did is that part of the state that we're doing in each of the schools is to do a school climate survey. And the children, this is the first year we had the children take it, so the kindergartners took this climate survey, and so Sheila will talk about one of the questions.
And that itself was quite a lot of fun, because some of the children walked the same line twice. So that's why you see a little differentiation here. How do the children feel about school? What is more important in school than the school climate? It's how the children feel, their attitudes about school. Are they happy? And we have to compliment our kindergarten team because they're happy because the kindergarten team embraced full-day kindergarten, made the day a happy day for the children and a productive day because the children knew what was going on. Their feelings and attitudes were very positive, so you can see 174 said they like school, and 53 said it's okay. So together, that's about 96% of the kindergarten class. And then, of course, there are always a few that say, I don't like it. And we have to work on them a little bit and maybe find out what their major interests are. But certainly, the ethos of the school, the climate of the kindergarten team, and walking into the classroom, you can see the hum and the harmony in the classrooms, and the children are very happy. And they have really adjusted to this long day, coming to the school at the same time everyone else comes, having lunch, and then going home when everyone else comes. It's just so much smoother and more consistent for them.
This is a pretty powerful graphic up here. It's about the sight words. It compares the 2 years, last year versus this year. You notice that we increased the demand from 45 to a 50-word list. Sight words are these words that don't follow the decoding principle, so we need the kids to recognize them right away. It's the foundation for early reading. And as you can see, what's shifting here is we have less kids below benchmark and a much greater percentage moving to at benchmark or well above. And if you can go to the next slide, this is just more of a narrative of what's happening. I'm living this on three fronts, not only as an administrator, but as a parent in Monroe. My daughter is going to full-day kindergarten. This is the first year in Monroe, and my son is a second grader, so when he went through, it was a shortened day. And we see just a huge difference even at home with the work she's doing, and I know our children are greatly benefiting here at Miller Driscoll, and it's going to have a ripple effect. We're just starting to see some of the benefit. It's going to be exponential, and our partners with Cider Mill and Middlebrook are greatly going to benefit, which creates a unique opportunity for us to really look at our professional practice and how we actually have to now not deliver as much intervention, but eventually move more towards enrichment, because it's going to change how we're teaching and differentiating, because kids are coming in more prepared. So it creates a unique opportunity for us.
That's wonderful.
And then, in the next slide, we also have our end of year reading scores. I want to talk a little bit about the graph because it may be a little confusing when you look at it. What we did in order to try to have a comparative basis, we didn't really have the scores necessarily from last year. They weren't as consistent. So what we did is we took the beginning of the year when the children came in, not the very first day of school, but it's their fall assessment. So we do a fall assessment of the Fontes and Pinnell. That's how a child can read a book. Now, in kindergarten, we're not expecting them to come in as readers, but we've taught them some things. So this assessment is first part of November. So from November to spring, we want them to be able, our benchmark is a level D. So you can see level D is right in the middle. The red is all the students that it's all the spring scores. The blue is all the fall scores. So that you can see that at the beginning of the year, in fall, there were a number of children that were below level A. They were emerging readers. But I think there were something like 134 students that were at a level A, which was very appropriate. Then the levels B, C, and then you see there are very few kids that are readers, of course. You wouldn't expect that many, but there are a few. But then when you see in the spring, you can see the red, where the children, the graph is skewed the other way now. There are no children below an A. There are no children at a level A. There are just a very few that are levels B and C. There are a high number of children that are the level D, and then you can see all those children above what the benchmark is. That is a great accomplishment, because we didn't expect the children to come in as readers. Some are readers. We moved them forward. Some of the children didn't have any of those emerging skills. We moved them forward. The children that were right at about A, which is where they should have been in November, they all moved forward. One of the things that you'll note from this is the huge amount of differentiation you have to do in a class. You can have all these levels in any given class. Lori, did you have a question?
If you had done this same graphic prior to full-day kindergarten, how would it have spread out by the end of the year?
Well, we knew we didn't have that many children that were at benchmark because of the interventions we were giving. So that's one of the ways we can tell. So that's why I wanted to show you from fall till now to see the progress they made. I think the other thing that will be an important metric is at the beginning of next school year, when our first graders come in. We recorded our first graders at the beginning of this year. We'll record our first graders this next fall. That's one of the things that we will track, because that's more apples to apples. The other thing to note about this is that it would have been very hard to show you that. It was hard enough to show those sight words, because last year the children only needed to know 45. 64% of the children knew 45 last year. This year they're expected to know 10 more or 5 more words, 50 words. 84% of them know 50 words. So that is a huge improvement. With this particular graph, the other thing that you will notice is that all of these kids, they all moved, and they will all be hopefully retained over the summer, and we'll see that in the fall as well. So I just want to go to the next page that spells it out a little bit. The only reason I put them down like that is because you could see the actual number of those levels. One of the things I want to caution you about is we have to be very careful with kindergarten, first, second grade, that children can come in and they can read the words, or in the middle of the year they can read the words. When we're saying they can read this level, that means they can comprehend this level, they can read this level. Many parents will say, my child can read level whatever. We insist that they not only can read, they can read words, but they actually can have a 96% comprehension on that as well. We have to be very careful that the children aren't so high that the books are inappropriate for them. So we have to do a more in-depth kind of teaching as well. It's not just about the levels. So there is a lot that goes on into your practices of teaching. And as we look at this, as you know, Jen Saravella will be coming and working with our school next year, and she's going to primarily work with kindergarten. And those are the things that we have to do is to help the children become really strong readers at that level. It's not that you're just reading at a high level, it's that you really know how to read that. Because you have to be very careful. I tell the story sometimes, and you'll appreciate this as adults, being around children so much as we are. I was in a classroom in October or something. There was a little boy, he was reading like a level K, very high, kindergarten, sitting on the floor. I sat next to him and I said, oh, can you read this to me? He read it every word perfectly. He did so well. Well, the name of the book was The Headless Horseman. So I said, so tell me what happens in this story. He thought the head had, gone off and had gone here, and he was telling me all about what he thought the story was. He lost the nuances of that story. He could read every word perfectly. He knew every vocabulary word. We have to be careful with children like that. We want to make sure that we are teaching them the right things, the right text. And the teacher said, she said, I saw you talking to him, and he wasn't supposed to have that book. It wasn't in his book box. He wanted to get it because he knew it was his level. But it's just very exciting how the children do. The other thing that's very important that's not an apples to apples comparison is last year we expected children to be able to read an independent C. That means they can read that book all by themselves with no instructional support. This year we expected them to read a D all by themselves with no instructional support. Hopefully they'll carry that on and they'll remember that next school year. 95% of the students achieved level D or higher by the end of this school year. We're very proud of what the teachers did. They embraced full day, as Sheila said, what the children did, and the parents allowed us to do with them. That's a picture of those kids are all independently reading on the floor.
As you can see, we are very happy with full-day kindergarten. If you look at the mathematics end-of-year assessment, look at how the children are doing their math work. With the new program, Math in Focus, every single class has had quite a challenge learning how to do the new Math in Focus. But the kindergarten children seem to be very comfortable with it, just like they're comfortable with computers and technology. They're very comfortable with this new program. It's a deeper thinking program. They have to really tell you why they got the answer. Look how many, the benchmark for kindergarten is 80. Look how many students are above the benchmark. There's always that bell curve, but this is not your normal bell curve at all. This bell curve is here and all the way higher. So if you would just show the next slide, which I think explains it nicely too. Oh, sorry, thought there was another one. Well, there are 100 students reading at above 80. There are 90 to 97 reading above the benchmark of 80. And there are very few who are below 70%. Did you want to explain any more about this one?
No, I'm sorry, somehow that slide got out of there, what Sheila's referring to. 93, it's like 94, 94 students achieved 100%. 96 students achieved between a 90 and a 97. There were a number of them. It was like 34 students, 80 to 87, and then the other ones were 12 and then 10, I think it was. So I left off a slide, so that's what Sheila was talking about.
One of the nice things is that one of our kindergarten teachers is our instructional leader for math. And I do think one of the success rate for the kindergarten math has something to do with Carol Maxwell.
So we did also, before I go to the last slide, we did also distribute a survey to the teachers, but it's the end of the year, and so I haven't gotten all those in yet. And we sent one to parents, but again, the end of the year, and we'll be collecting those. So we will be using those, we'll still be getting them in, we'll be using those to drive our instruction for next year, but you did hear the teachers when we were here the last time, and they pretty much all say the same things. They say not a one disagrees, in fact, they all say they strongly agree, gives them more time, they like the things they're able to do, and I think it shows it on our slides. One of the things they all have as a caution is their concern that we'll just keep expecting more and more and more and putting more in it, because that's what we do. So we'll have to make sure that we follow that and we follow that carefully, and that's a very important thing for us to do. They were happy with the schedule. They were happy with the way that we did almost everything. We'll make some tweaks next year, but we think all in all we've done what we hope to do. That's, I think, looking forward, I just wanted to say one thing as we go on. This is just a short little thing. We had 10 sessions, I think, of orientation. I think it was last week or the week before. We had an orientation night, we call it a parent university. We had almost 200 parents come to that. We were just so excited. Moms and dads came, we talked about kindergarten, the curriculum, all the in-depth things. But one of the parents came up to me, or I saw a little girl sitting there after all the children had come out. We met with the parents, and then the children went with teachers and did 3 little activities. They came back, and of course they look in the door, and they're so excited. They see their mom and dad is exactly sitting where they were, which we tell the parents, don't move. They want to find you there. And they came in. I saw one little girl was sort of crying, and I was looking over, and the mom looked at me, and I thought, oh my gosh, she was really sad. And Mom looked at me and she said, it's okay, she doesn't want to go home. So, I guess with that, we just say that we are looking so forward to the next group. We've had a delightful year with this kindergarten class. We're pleased with their progress, and we look forward to the new kinders who will be coming next year, and they'll be our class of 2027.
Well,
Thank you very much. We now move on to the financial report. Actually, before we do that, are there any questions?
How many students were there this year?
244.
And next year you expect?
Probably around the same. We have about 244 that I know of now, and usually in the summer it grows.
Okay, so about the same number, okay.
It'll be the same number yeah.
Perfect. We now move on to the financial report.
This is the May financial report. As of the end of May, I'm projecting an operating deficit of $505,392. The overages in special education outplacements and contracted services are partially offset by projected savings in salaries, employee benefits, supplies, and utilities. At this time, it appears that the excess cost grant, health benefit savings, and savings from the spending freeze will offset the projected deficit and create a small surplus. I plan to review our financial status again early next week and hope to be able to relax the spending freeze before we close out the fiscal year. The special education deficit is $1,650,914. Outplacements and contracted services, again, continue to be the reason for this deficit. These overages are partially offset by savings in salaries and health benefits. Our final excess cost claim was $1,358,376. The town has received $1,016,410, which is 74.8% of our claim, which is around the same percentage we've received the last 3 or 4 years. We've had very good experience in our health benefits account this year. For most of the year, claims have been trending lower than budget. For the 11 months ended May 31st, health benefits are under budget by a little over $1.6 million. Since we've already collected the full year of employee contributions, I expect the surplus in this account to be smaller at the end of June. Since we are self-insured and medical claims can rise unexpectedly, I've included $700,000 in savings on this financial report, and I'm monitoring the medical claims on a weekly basis. I also wanted to give the board an update on participation fees. In total, we collected $164,370 of the $176,500 that we budgeted. Cider Mill collected $11,429 against a budget of $8,500. Middlebrook collected $7,976 of the $8,000 budgeted. The high school collected $144,965 of the $160,000 budgeted. The shortfall at the high school was primarily the club and activity fee, and we're currently working to determine if the problem was that we didn't collect from everyone who participated, or if we overestimated the number of students who would participate, so that's ongoing. In total, I received 15 requests for waivers covering 20 students and 27 sports or activities. Additionally, we waived fees for any of the 50 or 60 students who are in free and reduced lunch, but I don't know how many of them participated. We just didn't charge them fees. I think it's important for the board to know that the school administrators and their support staffs, as well as Marianne Salvato, my administrative assistant, and Joy Feller, the district's administrative systems analyst, worked very hard to plan and implement this program. This is especially true at the high school, where the volume was much higher than the other schools. Joy, Marianne, and I have already met with the high school team to discuss ways to improve the process for next year. I'll take any questions you have.
Yeah, question on our excess claim to the state. In your report, I think we submitted that in March 1st. How does that calendarize? I'm confused about that, because as we move forward from the time we submitted the claim in March, our costs continue to escalate, as we see, we're higher. Do we lose our ability to claim that excess that we're experiencing? Or I don't understand how the timing works. Do you anticipate, do you forecast, or how does that work?
For the most part, the costs that are escalating now are not related to the students that we're claiming on the excess cost report. There's about 32 students whose claims exceed that 4.5 times our per pupil threshold. We file an initial claim December 1st, and then we update it in March, and we are given an opportunity to update it again at the end of August, if there are any more costs for those students that we've already identified. We do, with most of the excess cost students are outplaced or have a pretty set plan where we already know early on how much they're going to cost us. So we put the claim in not just for costs that we've already expensed, but for what we expect to spend on those students through the whole year.
Question followed up on that then. You said 32 students. How many of those students were known to us last year in April or May?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Most of them?
Majority. I think there's only one student who was new to us this year who we didn't know about.
And does that one exception represent the overage, or were there increases in outplacement costs that we weren't able to project?
On the excess cost claim, there was one student who was new to us. Some of the additional outplacements were students who we did not anticipate to have significant problems with their functioning this year.
So their needs increased?
Yes.
Okay.
And not all outplaced students automatically hit the threshold for excess cost, especially the ones that go to the public schools like CES.
Right.
They don't cost enough to reach that threshold.
Okay. Questions over here?
You said, I think, if I heard correctly, that you anticipate relaxing the spending freeze shortly?
I hope to.
And then where will the money be spent then, when it's not frozen?
I'm going to ask the principals and directors to give me some priorities things that have come up in the last month or so that they have not been able to buy. And some of it could be, I know Matthew has some technology equipment that we were unable to purchase.
Textbooks? So, but the benefits then really will begin to accrue at the end of August when school restarts?
Correct.
Almost by definition, the spending can't benefit the current
Correct.
school year. And about how much money do you think that will be?
I would really hesitate to hazard a guess at that.
Oh, just a guess. Roughly.
I'd really rather not at this time. The way,
More than $100,000?
I'm hoping more, but I don't know.
More than 200?
Probably not.
Okay, we get where you're going.
Well, I just wonder whether, to the extent that we're going to now, spend at the end of the year, if it's a material amount of money, just maybe you'd like to understand the process by how the decisions are made to spend the money. Clearly, it's not necessary because it's been frozen, right, in order to control costs, and now there's going to be discretionary spending, which I'm all for. I'd like to spend more or less. I just wonder whether you'd like to understand where it's going to be spent.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I think some of it, we're able to purchase some things that may have been cut back in budget slashing that went on.
That's the question.
So that
That's
was
really
it.
the question, is
Yeah.
how much and where's it going to be spent?
Right.
Is it technology? Is it teacher training? Is it supplies?
I think that's a fair question. Is it possible that you'll know?
I'd like to see you spend it all. Don't get me wrong. Spend
Right.
it.
Is it possible you'll know by our next meeting?
Yes.
So would it be
Most likely.
possible at our next meeting that you could tell us where you anticipate spending that, so we can understand? Because obviously, again, to Chris's point, there are still items that didn't make that list. We'd like to know those too, perhaps.
Certainly.
Okay.
And some of my hesitation about putting a number out there is, I try to be a little bit on the conservative side anyway, because
You surprised me.
I have to make sure that we don't run out, for one thing, and there are a lot of landmines along the way coming toward the finish line between health benefits. We're also self-insured in workers' comp, so one large claim could hurt us there. Obviously, the special education costs are continuing to come in, so.
Understood.
And what's the carryover period of time for workers' comp and health benefit claims? When's the last day they could be logged in this fiscal year?
Well, the health benefits claims will be whatever's incurred, or whatever's paid as of June 30th, and I will find out what that is on July 1st.
Okay.
Workers' comp, I won't find out for a couple of weeks afterwards. It's too late to take advantage of any excess in that, at that time anyway.
But Bruce's point, it's a paid concept, not an incurred. So if there's a claim
Well-
that's incurred, we'd only reflect that which is paid at the end of the year?
For medical claims, yes. For workers' comp, it would be incurred or sometimes an estimate of a reserve for a claim.
Okay. Sure.
Your comments about participation fee, I remember reading something that came out about, there was a question or confusion about the insurance portion of that.
Mhm.
And that you are planning, that currently this year it was a $50 premium, and that you're now going to reduce that to 25.
Correct, but apply it to every sport that every student plays.
So they have to pay 25 now for every
For
sport
each sport,
versus
50 for as many sports as they want to play.
Oh,
So if they
okay.
And
play,
that
I
wasn't
didn't
clear.
understand-
That
I
wasn't
didn't
very
understand that
clear.
either. It's
I'm
like,
sorry.
we're just cutting it in half?
Yeah, that wasn't clear
No.
in
Yeah,
the,
okay.
So it will
So that
go up
doesn't-
if you're a three-sport.
Yes, and it'll
So
go
it's
down
still
if you're one
75.
sport.
it goes down if you're one,
Down,
but you get
okay.
socked, you get 75 instead of 50 if you're a three
No,
sport.
50, is it $50 for three sports?
No, it's going to be $25 per sport.
Per sport. So it's
So
going
it'd
to
be
go up for a
75 for
three-sport
three.
person.
Right.
And if you're only a one sport,
It'll go down.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And eliminate, there was some confusion among parents because the athletic
$60
parents had to pay that $50 fee for a long time.
Right.
And it was getting confused with the
Activity.
activity fee. And I believe there were at times when the athletic folks used to call that insurance fee the activity
It
fee.
was,
They did,
we made it out to the check,
Yeah.
the paper's made.
Because it's
Exactly,
the
it's the
activity
activity fund.
Right.
So this will help eliminate the confusion. It'll make it just one transaction too. If you select football, it's going to charge you $125.
Okay,
And you project you'll still cover the cost. It will more
Yeah.
than cover.
Yes.
and clear up the confusion. Okay, good.
Yeah,
Right.
I had to see.
Okay, I wasn't clear about.
Apologize for
I
not
thought
making
it
it
goes
clear.
down, yeah.
Any other questions?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
We now move on to action items. We moved the one item off the consent agenda. So, Dr. Richards, I don't know, Kenneth, we want you to stay with us, but it's
I'm staying.
the healthy food certification statement. So I know we had some questions and confusion about that. Can you give us a brief overview?
Sure. The state asks districts every year to choose whether or not they will sign this statement. And the statement basically says that you will only serve and allow to be served items, food items within certain nutritional guidelines during any time during the school day. Currently, as you probably know, our high school is not on the National School Lunch Program, so everything we sell there does not comply with those standards. We would also not be allowed to have students do bake sales or there's the soup sale fundraiser that they do, because you would not be allowed to do competing foods with the program. You would not be allowed to sell food in the school store either. So for those reasons, and the reimbursement, the extra reimbursement you get, and I don't remember the exact amount of dollars that the food program would get, but I believe it was less than $10,000 out of a $1 million plus program, and it wouldn't come to the public schools; it would go to the lunch fund. And the Chartwells, along with myself, believe that what we would have to sacrifice to get that would not offset it. So that's why we recommend every year that we do not. The rest of our schools are on the National School Lunch Program and fully comply, and most of what we sell at the high school does comply with all nutritional standards.
Well, and that's, I guess where I'm confused, is this is for Wilton. It doesn't say Wilton High School, it says Wilton total.
Right, but because of the way we run the high school and the things we do at the high school, we can't certify that
Okay,
we will do
all right,
that.
so the high school will not be, but all the other schools are in compliance.
Absolutely.
And tell me again where we're out of compliance, besides the fact that there's a bake sale and we're not going to certify that the cookies are healthy.
Some of the other foods that we sell in.
Is there any
yeah,
reason
a
why
la carte reasons.
is there some reason why we wouldn't ensure that those also are healthy? To the extent we're
Well,
supplying.
I didn't say they were.
Again, putting the cookies aside that come from home.
I didn't say they were necessarily unhealthy, but and they've been really tightening up the standards quite a bit lately. So much so that there are a number of high schools in the area that are considering coming off the school lunch program that are on it right now, because it just restricts so much what they can serve to the high school.
Is there any chance at some other date we could understand what the delta is between what we serve and what would be considered appropriate under the standards?
Yes,
Because you said the other schools comply.
yes. And most of what we serve at the high school.
I'd just like to understand the outliers.
Sure.
Does any of this get into allergies and being allergen-free?
No.
So that's not a part of
No.
this? Okay.
And the risk, the exposure here is this $10,000.
Yes.
We're not complying.
Well, we probably sell sugary drinks and vending machines, don't we?
No,
No.
no.
I don't
No,
know.
not allowed to.
Where are the likely outliers? Somebody must know. What are we serving that's likely doesn't comply?
At the high school?
At the high school, it's just high school.
Cafeteria?
I'd have to
Okay.
analyze it
I
really
don't know.
fully to look at food items that aren't in compliance.
I think it's probably the snacks.
The snacks?
Yeah.
High sugar, high fat snacks?
Wonderful chocolate pudding, tapioca.
And the culinary departments,
And
they make food and then they bring in their carts during the lunchroom and sell it to the kids, so we would have
Right,
to
competing
eliminate
sales are
that
not allowed.
if we.
And the school store.
I wasn't
And the
suggesting,
school
I
store
wasn't
sells
suggesting
Tic
we
Tacs, you know, that kind of thing.
comply in order
Right.
to get certified. I was just wanting to know
And
why
Mentos.
we make a conscious decision in some cases to sell food that otherwise wouldn't comply.
Probably because the kids could go to the school store to the bake sales, and so Chartwell's is trying to compete.
High school kids may not buy the things that have to be selling.
I'd like to see the analysis.
I think sales at Wilton Deli would increase dramatically if we moved to the channel.
We'd have to give them permission to be on campus.
Or they'd be going off across the street to the
Or the
coffee bar.
Coffee bar.
Well, we also wouldn't have any co-curriculars. 'cause
Is there any
that's why they-
pressure on the state to get us to comply? How do they react when we say we will not?
At the high school.
Well, we don't say at the high school, we just say we will not. This doesn't define the high school, it's a school system, for example.
I think, when
I see
when
what
it comes around every year, they obviously encourage us. There are no additional financial or other incentive or penalties for not doing it. Sometimes if they've had a year where they've had a number of districts come on and very few drop off, they'll let you know that.
If I'm hearing the questions from the board correctly, and please feel free to correct me, I think what we're hearing is a question of what do our kids have access to that is considered not necessarily healthy? And I'll add personally, is there a way to support our curriculum, which is being driven through, Middlebrook and the new culinary arts program, to perhaps find areas for improvement? Is that a safe?
Well, that also, what's the risk? I'm concerned about the risk if we don't comply. I mean, is there any pressure? If there's no exposure other than the $10,000 that we would get, but all the service clubs, everybody who sells food would lose their income, whatever. And I'm not sure it's really a wash, but it's probably close.
Roughly.
Probably, yeah.
Probably close. It could be over the course of a year. Then my concern is, I think, what Chris says, how bad is the food, or how far out of compliance is it? I mean, is it really, or not? I can't imagine it is. With
I
Chartwell,
think it's a mistake to characterize it as we're selling a lot of bad food there.
The district's had a nutrition committee in
yeah,
place
Chartwell
for,
would, I
I
don't
mean,
think.
we have
7 or 8
nutrition standards that we do have to
Yeah.
adhere to.
Right.
So
And-
it's not like we're selling, junk food.
And they have made
It's
real
just-
progress in baking as opposed to frying, and reducing
Yeah.
the numbers
yeah.
of high cholesterol foods with more healthier, and trying to push more of the salads and vegetables.
And in the high school, you give kids more choices.
So is it
Right.
really true the only reason we don't comply is because you want to keep chocolate pudding?
I did not render an opinion on this matter prior to, we talked about it a little bit, but no,
So
we
the
can
question is,
do it, if the board wants to see an analysis of
I can
this,
certainly
yes,
quantify what it
but-
is that we look to change.
If I can just be clear, to the extent we have nutritional guidelines, I'd like to see them.
all right,
If they're available, and to the extent that it's easy, and I do mean easy, I'm not interested in having people spend a lot of time and effort on this one, but it's easy to quickly identify the gap analysis, that would be terrific.
the outliers.
Yeah, the
Okay.
And comfort that there's no exposure other than what the kid is already determined by not complying.
Okay. Understanding that that would be provided to us in a report, are we comfortable approving this?
So moved.
Second?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, we've talked frequently at this table about the Parent Advisory Board, which is an incredibly valuable group of parents that works with our special education department and community. And they've expressed to a number of Board of Ed members that we consider having a Board of Ed liaison to that group. And we've got it on the agenda this evening for discuss and approve. And I'd just like to share that if this valuable group is looking for additional attention from us, I think it's a wonderful opportunity to engage just an incredible group of parents. So I'll open it up for discussion. Thoughts, comments?
I agree, as we look at where we have our committees and where we spend our resources and stuff, it seems to me that that's an area where we could really benefit from having a board member providing additional insight and just being part of it. It's I think we've all had a lot of opportunities to interact with some of the members of the Parent Advisory Board, and it's just phenomenal what goes on there, and I think it's quite a tribute to Anne, how far it has come in the last couple of years, and I just think it'd be very important and helpful for the board to participate in that way.
Okay.
And to add to that, I think it would then show the board that they have the support of the Board of Ed, that we care enough to be there and to be a part of their discussion. So I think it would represent us well with them.
Other thoughts?
So moved.
Okay, Ann, Paul, do you have any comments?
No, I think it's a wonderful tribute to the PAD, and I think they really are a force for good in the district, and that's what they're all about. And so I think they will be delighted to have the recognition and participation.
Okay. Motion?
Moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. So we won't assign the person until we do the committees again? Is that
No,
the
at this
plan?
point, well, Ann, you tell me, when do they meet again?
They've had their last meeting of the year, so we don't meet again until the start of school. We do not meet early.
And we do committees in December though, correct? Molly?
Yes.
So we should really pick somebody this evening to join you in September.
Or at least give it some thought, maybe.
No, I know Chris has volunteered to do that.
Perfect.
We meet.
I didn't want to put any
we meet
pressure on
once a
anybody.
month.
I'd really like to,
We meet once a month on the first Wednesday morning of the month.
Okay. And Laura, I know you expressed some interest as well.
Sure, I can, Chris Evans,
Okay.
let's go, recommend.
Do we want to recommend Chris with you as a backup if she can't make it?
Absolutely.
Does that work out?
Moved.
Okay, move second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
great.
Thank you very much.
Great.
We now move on to future business and announcements. Our next meeting is
26th,
June 26th.
not the
Yes.
27th.
It's the
right?
26th.
27th is Friday.
Yes, it's 26th, Thursday, 26th, 7 PM in this room. I would like it to be known that that will actually be Dr. Richard's very last Board of Education meeting. So I am anticipating some fanfare and frivolity.
Tapioca?
Chocolate pudding for everyone.
There better be chocolate pudding. Mr. O'Donnell, can you take that out and make sure there's some chocolate
Only
pudding?
healthy chocolate.
I can't eat chocolate pudding.
All chocolate pudding.
No, all
sounds
the good, not the light stuff, the real stuff.
like real stuff.
The real, if you're gonna eat it, you do it right.
And as we do at the beginning and end of every meeting, is there anybody that wants to speak from the public? Seeing none, I look for a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.